Welcome to the Action Playbook. I'm Jason Fox.
And I'm Coach Robin.
And we're helping leaders take action in life and business.
Hello, Jason.
Robin, welcome back to this podcast. It's being recorded after the other one. 5 minutes later, if you're wondering why we're in the same place.
You stayed over last night.
Yeah, well, what we're doing is we're planning ahead because I'm in Aussie next week and Robin, where are you going?
Solomon Islands.
How the
Family holiday.
Bet you he's taking a surfboard too.
Living the dream. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking my golf clubs, so we're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to portray to everybody.
Yeah.
Live their best life.
Yeah. How good. Plan. So we're here to talk about planning.
Yep.
Literally.
So just to recap quickly, so far what we've been covering off is dream, right?
Sure.
Set the destination. Goal. Create the milestones so that A, you can track your progress, and B, stay motivated to stay on track. Then we did
Education.
learning.
Yep.
Right? Because chances are you need to upskill yourself in order to do the things more effectively or better or faster than jumping in with both feet before you've done preparation. And then we get to the really, really important part. And this is the part that is either, if done well, will get you to your goal.
Sure.
But if not, chances are it's going to fail. And New Year's resolutions, classic example. You sit there midnight on the 31st of December and you go, right, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to make more money this year, I'm going to work less.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to quit drinking with beer in hand.
Said no one ever. And that's where it stays, right? It just stays inside your head. And that plan is never the idea. The goal doesn't have the substantiation that it needs by having a plan.
Sure. Sorry, I was yawning there.
Yeah.
Big night.
Yeah.
I didn't quit drinking.
Is it me, Jason?
Well, now you bring it up.
Oh, jeez, that hurts. Yeah, so a lot of goals fail. A lot of ideas, great ideas, fail through execution, and the execution fails because it's not planned properly, or not planned at all. And what's the saying?
Failing to plan is planning to fail.
That's right.
Oh,
that's exactly what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
That plan is really crucial to a successful implementation. And
sometimes it could be even just taking the first step. Like, this is my dream or my goal, but where do I get started?
We spoke about the goals having a deadline. So I like the idea of breaking it up. We have spoken about this already, but breaking it up into small, manageable bits that is, firstly, mentally isn't as big as, $1 million is actually only X amount per week or per day. That is one of the ways to really make that. Oh, this is going so badly. I'm struggling to find the words for what I want to say, but making it manageable is a key element to creating a successful plan.
Sure. Yeah. And you go to the $1 million thing. I don't have a calculator in front of me, and I'm a bit dusty. But how do I earn $1 million? Well, straight away, you sell something for $1 million. There's one thing.
Yeah.
Or you sell 100 things at $100,000, 10 things at $100,000, or 100 things at $10,000, and you start breaking that back down as, actually, when I look at it that way, maybe it's not as hard as I think. But I tell you what, making $1 million selling a coffee at $6 a piece might be quite hard. You got to sell a lot of coffee. But you could buy one house and sell it, and maybe make $1 million with time. So you planning it out and understanding what it is that you're trying to do to achieve that can get you where you're going pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it also creates congruency, right? So you've got your dream, so there's your destination, and you've got your goals, so you work it backwards to what you need to do now. And so the goals that you need to, and this is the great thing about planning, is that congruency, right? So the goals that you do this week lines up to the goals that you need to do this month, lines up with the goals you need to do this quarter and this year, and then the next 10 years, and then wow, you've achieved your dream.
Yeah.
And I remember in my own business just how quickly that goes. You know, if you just stay focused on the plan, how quickly you start seeing the results. And of course, the other thing we love to say on this podcast is, you know, people always overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10. So having that plan really sets the benchmarks that you need to see your progress.
Yeah, and ultimately use that word focus before, you know, follow one course until successful. That plan, following that course, is the important thing. Is you are going to get to the end of that road, but if you give up, and ultimately that's what people do, they, you know, the 1 year goal just seems so big and scary that it never actually happens. And they might not hit that goal, but if they're looking at the 10-year goals, yeah, they'll piss in.
Yeah,
because you know, if I want to create $1 million business and I think I'm going to do that in 1 year, doable, absolutely, but pretty hard, depending on what you. Well, it's hard regardless of what business you choose. $1 million is a lot of money, but 10 years. Well, if you've been in business for 10 years and you haven't reached that $1 million milestone, you're doing something pretty wrong. Ultimately, so yeah, following that course will get you to where you are.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about putting a course together,
sure,
a plan together. Yeah. So we always work with my clients. I always work on a 90-day plan, 3 months. To plan too far out, it actually creates a blurred vision.
Sure.
To create too small means you're thinking too small. You know, you need a good balance of future thinking or future vision and present vision. And so 90 days seems to be like the magic number for most people. Not everyone, but most people. Yep. And so, you know, work out what are the goals that you need to do in the next 3 months, and then break it up into weeklies. The really, I will really want to emphasize this. The really important part is to take that goal and the plan out of your head and put it on paper. It has to be written down. And especially if you're you've got a team of people, share that plan with everybody, right? Don't just have it inside your head. And a lot of people do this. They, I talk to them and they go, yeah, I've got a plan. All right, let me see it. Oh, no, it's all in my head. Like, wow, that's not gonna help anyone. If anything happened to you or you had to go away somewhere in a hurry, that's not going to help anyone. So get that plan on paper. It helps to keep you on track, but it's also there so that other people can see it and understand it.
Yep. Yeah. Look, it's interesting. You're talking about the plan thing, and if you die, Alex Hormozy was talking in great detail around delayed gratification. Everyone thinks they want to celebrate too early. Like, oh yeah, I did hit this milestone, and I think we need to celebrate our milestones 100%. But I think people celebrate the milestones and stop a lot of the time. Oh yeah, I did it. But if you can live your life and you can work in the business and enjoy the hustle and everything that's happening, and wait to have the nice flashy red Ferrari that we've talked about in other goals and stuff, you might be able to buy that in year 2 or 3. But buying that in year 2 or 3 is actually taking a whole lot of money out of your business. So just keep that money in your business for a few more years, and then all of a sudden you've reinvested that money back in the business. James Wallace has been going through that himself recently. Sold his 250 grand's worth of cars and reinvested it and bought company cars for his staff and other things instead of the stuff for himself. And his business has grown and grown and grown. And Alex Hormozy talks about the fact that if you can wait 10 years and be okay with what you're doing, you're going to get to X really quickly. If you can wait 20 years And ultimately, if you can keep working your entire life for that purpose and know that maybe it doesn't get done until after you've died and moved on, then you know you're working for something really big. And the only way you can do something in that scale is with a plan.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise, what are you working for? What's the overarching goal? I mean, look how successful your favourite man, Steve Jobs' business is in after his passing. That business continues on. You know, it's going to continue on forever as far as we're aware.
Yeah. I hope so. I'm still a huge fan. but I think, you know, what you've touched on there is really interesting, because when you've got a plan, you can actually see how you're going to get there, right? So selling cars and homes to reinvest in the business, when that plan shows that, you know, you're going to double your money in 12 months, where else are you going to invest that money, where you're going to get that sort of a return?
Yeah, 100%.
But the plan backs it up. You know, there's a clear vision on how it's going to be achieved when you look at the plan written down.
Yep.
And I remember when I sold, when I exited my business, part of why I got higher than the evaluation was because we had a plan. It was a 3-year strategy mapped out for the business. And that added value to just the straight valuation of the business itself.
Yep.
And, you know, that just shows how important having a plan is.
Sure.
That it actually increases value. There's a monetary value you can attach to having a well thought out strategy plan.
Yep, I agree. And the other thing, you know, you say write a plan down, and it's important for your staff to have it and stuff. Mate, Google Sheets, Google Docs, something like that. Have like a plan can change. A plan should grow, because what you know today, again, we're talking about education. The person you are today shouldn't be the person you are tomorrow or in 12 months and all the rest of it. So what you think is the plan or the path today may not be the same in 12 months. Ultimately, you hope that plan's growing, not shrinking. But sometimes goals change too. You know, my mates with Williams Corp, they're one of New Zealand's biggest building companies, and their goal was to be the biggest building company in New Zealand. And Matthew Horncastle spoke to it the other day on his podcast, where that goal got them to where they are today. But we're in a declining market, and what they've learned is they can build 500 houses a year really well, and they've done that for the past 2 years. So rather than trying to be the biggest building company in New Zealand now, they want to execute 500 homes every year, and that's their goal. And they want to do it really well and engage with the clients, and they've created their own education piece and all the rest of it. So your plan can change, and it's, you know, their business went from having something like 20 offices down to about 5. You know, they were like, actually, we thought we needed to be in all these towns, but we don't need that much. We've got a massive base in Christchurch where we hang out. We've got a good office in Auckland. We don't actually need one in Nelson and Tauranga and the other cities they're looking to grow to. So your plans can develop and grow as you do.
And they should. They really should be reviewed. You know, in my business, we would review our strategy annually. We'd sense check it. You know, is this still what we want? Is this still what we want to do? Is it still achievable, measurable, realistic, all the smart stuff?
Yeah.
And then, you know, we would only plan 90 days. So every quarter, again, we would just check in and say, right, you know, what we are planning to do in the next quarter, is that in line with our goals, our longer term or medium term goals? Does that take us closer?
Yeah.
And that review process, I think, is really important. You know, we can't foresee what the future holds. I mean, look at COVID.
Yeah.
Look what COVID did. It literally brought the entire world shut down for 2 months. How can you foresee that? How can you plan for that now for 5 years' time? You know, who knows what the next pandemic will be?
Yeah, or the flooding or anything. You know, your office gets flooded and or your house gets washed away, or any of the horrible things that have happened recently. And
or you find your sweet spot, you know, like Williams Corp did with their 500 homes. You know, you've suddenly that thing that you wanted isn't as important anymore. what's more important is this is what we can do, and we can do this really well. So we're just going to stay in this lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, ultimately, what you're saying as well is, prior to that, is it basically adapt or die. You know, you can keep following that same path sometimes, but that path might be heading straight towards a brick wall. Or you can adapt and turn right and walk 10 metres and go left again, and you can keep going down the highway. So yeah, just making those little switches. And again, that comes back to why the Google Docs and stuff, I feel, is such a great way to do it. Because you write it down on paper and you put it in your drawer and you go, oh, actually, we're going to change. You've got to adapt the entire plan versus, oh, we've got a working worksheet here. We can just alter, step 7. And this is going to ultimately still get us to step 10 down the track.
Yeah, there's a very famous story about Kodak, right? And I need to fact check this, but as I understand it, Kodak invented digital photography. They were the first ones to actually discover this idea of filmless cameras, but they were so invested in film that they didn't take it further. They didn't invest in it. Maybe behind closed doors they even spoke about it's not going to be a thing, or they were wrong.
Okay.
And so because they were so slow off the mark, wanting to keep the film business, that side of their business going strong, they didn't develop their strategy, their plan for digital fast enough. And they were overtaken, and film died, and Kodak went down along with them.
And look, I don't think anyone ever predicted that the biggest camera company in the world would be Apple.
No.
Right? And this is being filmed on a beautiful Panasonic Lumix camera here, but we could just have our cell phone doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Probably cut down my workload in editing it. So next one's coming from a phone, actually. But yeah, wow.
Anyone want to buy a camera?
Yeah, it's going cheap. But look, I think we've covered off planning pretty good. Is there anything else you do with your clients? Obviously, you're the coach here.
Yeah, I think the one thing is to regularly go and check in.
Yeah,
whether you're working by yourself, whether you're working with a team, have a meeting, a team meeting, and talk about these goals. Be open about it. Don't keep it in. Involve the team. Inclusion and involvement, both of those are really important. And bring them in, because by bringing them into that process as well, including them in that process, you get a much higher buy-in. So, and then the really important thing is to then give the feedback. The other and last thing that I want to add is something you touched on a little bit earlier, reward. Reward yourself, I think was what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And that's a really important element as well. I mentioned in the first podcast about the dopamine that we create, our brains create when we achieve goals and tick off tasks. That dopamine, that creates almost an addictive behavior. You want more, you want more, you want more. So celebrating our wins when we achieve a goal, really important.
Yeah.
And people just don't do it enough. It doesn't mean you go, buy an expensive car when you hit 10% growth in your business, unless 10% is $100 million. But what it does mean is, take your team out for a dinner, go away with your family, enjoy some time away from the work environment.
Have the long weekend. You've been working 15 hours a day for 3 months. Yeah. Have a 4-day weekend. Take that time, reset, put your feet in the sand. Yeah.
But that reward is there as partly as motivation as well. So important to set that reward at the start of the 90-day period, for example, or the 12-month period, so that it becomes a driver for achieving those goals as well. And a consequence is the opposite. One of my favorite stories was somebody, their goal was to go to gym every day. And there was this one person that they didn't really like. So they arranged that he would message them every time he went to gym, and so he did not want to be the one messaging him to say, "Oh, I didn't go to gym today."
Yeah.
And so that was his motivation, So there was a consequence for him. There was a consequence to not doing the tasks that he had set for himself to achieve his goal. And so the consequence and reward system becomes a high driver for staying on track.
And you can have a lot of fun with it too. One of the guys that I follow, he's got one of the fastest growing real estate companies in LA, and he has a lot of fun with that. The consequences are large with his team. All right, we're going to knock on 50 doors this week each. If you don't knock on 50 doors, you're going to get my name tattooed on your ass. And they follow through with that shit. So you're like,
I do not want a Jason tattooed on my ass. I'm going to find something and make that my consequence.
Yeah, so there you go. So you can have a bit of fun with it, and it can be something that your whole team can get involved with. It doesn't just have to be something you hold that burden with yourself. Yeah. So anyway, I think we've covered it off pretty well. It's our longest podcast, I think, now. So we found it a little bit easier to talk after that warm-up one last week that you would have listened to.
Yeah, well, it's also just so important. Getting the planning right, really key to success of the whole strategy.
Yeah.
So get out there and take some action.